Okay, so hopefully all of this makes sense to you guys. If you don't understand what's going on, you can try to message me and I might be able to get back to you. I'm not 100% sure about tomorrow, but I will try my best. So, first, I would really suggest doing today in groups, anywhere between 2 and 5-ish people. This will be really helpful for you to kind of be able to talk back and forth, collaborate, and kind of work through what we're going to be working on today. Also, anything that you don't do today in class is going to be considered homework. So make sure that you are putting forth 110% effort so that you don't get behind in the class. Now, I'm going to have certain areas where I want you to do stuff. Just pause the video once I say something, and then hopefully you can be able to take that time to be able to do the stuff. I'll kind of give you an idea of where you should be at, how long it'll take, and then you can be able to complete it and then keep everything on track and ready to go. So today we're going to be basically introducing your DBQ. Now I know that DBQs tend to be really scary. I hear a lot of times that this is the one that people are really scared of the most. Now, traditionally, the reason why most people are scared of DBQs is 2 reasons. So the first one is that you don't get a choice on the DBQ. So you get one single DBQ, everybody gets the same one, and there's no choice. And so if it's a topic that you don't remember, didn't do well on, then, that's the way it is. The second reason why a lot of people are, scared of the DBQ is because it's worth 35% of your grade. But don't worry, we're going to work through this together and figure it out. Now, one thing I will say about the DBQ is that some of you have done this before. However, about 80% of my students this year came straight from AP Human Geo, which means that we're going to be going step by step. So if you learn this in World or in Euro, that's great. We're still going to do this step by step because everybody needs to be able to learn and go back to the basics. We had a little bit of an issue yesterday, or today, I guess I should say, with a group of students that were like, oh, well, I got a 3 on the AP World exam, so I don't really need to do DBQs. And then when I went to go check their work, they weren't working, and then the work that they had done was all incorrect. In fact, it was so grossly incorrect, they probably wouldn't have gotten any points on the exam. So just make sure that even if you've done this before, give your best effort, and hopefully I can be able to teach you in a way that it's a little bit easy. But today we're going to be working mostly on the pre-write stuff. So what you need to open for today is first off this document, which there's a link above to this document. File, make a copy of it to be able to allow editable capabilities. Now, I printed off several copies of the DBQ. The problem is that I don't know where it is. It might be on a desk somewhere. I think I put it on the corner of my desk that is closest to you guys. So if you think of my computer to the left of my computer on that very big corner, I think that's where I put the stack. It'll say DBQ on the front. If somebody tries to find that, then great. Unfortunately, I got a bit messy on my desk yesterday trying to grade, and so of course the one day I'm going to call in sick is the day my desk is really messy. So hopefully you can find these for people. If you cannot find these, then I gave you a link to the DBQ. So the DBQ that we're doing is last year's DBQ. If you scroll down to, I think it's page 5 or 6, you'll find a document that looks just like this. And this is the document or the DBQ that we're going to start off with. Now, things that I should suggest that you have out. So your Progressive Era notes packet is going to be very helpful. Your Google Doc, which you should have already or about to open. Your DBQ link, which again, if you can find those packets, great. Shout it out to everybody. If not, I provided you a link. By the way, if you do find the packets, those are yours to write on. No big deal. Keep them. If not, I'm really, really sorry. I'll have them printed for you next time. And then also, I can't read what's at the bottom, but whatever's at the bottom, you should have that out too. Okay, so let's talk about this DBQ and what you should expect for the DBQ. So when you get to the DBQ, you're basically, so you start the exam with multiple choice, then you do 3 SAQs, you get about a 10 to 15 minute break, and then you go straight into your essays. And they give you a full hour and 40 minutes to do 2 essays, the LEQ and the DBQ. They don't tell you when to move on. So what that means is you have to be really smart with your timing. Now, they give you for the first 15 minutes what's called a reading period. So they'll say, okay, you are now entering your reading period or whatever it is. You have 15 minutes, and then after that, they will cue you and say you should now be writing. So what we're going to do today is, in theory, what you would probably do in about 15 minutes on the AP exam. And I'll show you how to quicken it up, so don't stress out about how long it's going to take. It gets very quick the more that you practice. We're just going to really scale it down so everybody knows what's going on. Now, one thing about the DBQ is, again, a lot of people overwrite it. They take too long. I've noticed, like when I took the AP exam, we got to the 10-minute warning for the whole essay period, and I'd say about 50% of students were still on the DBQ and had not even gone to the LEQ yet. So timing is really important. Now, one thing I want to point out about the DBQ, though, is we are first off only going to focus on the essay prompt right now. Please do not read any documents. Just stay on the essay prompt. So a lot of times I get questions that say, well, in so-and-so's class, we started with the DBQ. And I think that that's great. For me, I like to give a basis with an LEQ and then show how a DBQ is basically an LEQ. Now you'll notice in this prompt, this is literally your LEQ prompt. I gave that to you so that you could, one, practice an LEQ, and two, you've already written about probably 60 to 70% of your essay. Now we just need to show how you can be able to integrate these documents into those LEQs. So again, we're not doing any of the documents. We're just focusing on this essay prompt. Now, I want you to pull up your Google Doc. So it should look something like this. So we're going to focus specifically on steps 1 and 2. Now, if you did your LEQ, then great. You've already done this. This is a good opportunity to spend about 30 seconds to a minute making sure that your group is all on the same page of what you need to do. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to go ahead and answer just these 2 steps. So I want you to go ahead and answer steps 1 and step 2. So again, with step number 1, what type of essay is this? Remember, we have 2 types of essays. If you're new, there's 2 major types of essays. Some of them are what we call causation essays. That means we're looking at cause and effects of a topic. And other ones are called a CCOT, which is change in continuity over time. Let's see if you can be able to read this and figure out which of those 2 types that it is. And then I want you to figure out which side of the argument we're going to focus on the most. Then with step number 2, think about the big topic of your essay. What is the main key vocab term that we're going to focus on? And then what is the subtopic, which is the subset of that main topic that we're going to talk about. So I want you to go ahead and complete steps 1 and 2. Go ahead and pause this video until you've completed steps 1 and 2. Okay, so hopefully you've now completed steps 1 and 2. That should have taken about 30 seconds to a minute would be hopefully the goal. Let's see if you got it right. So first off, what type of essay is this? Is it a CCOT essay? And in particular, we're going to be focusing on change. So again, it says it didn't change there. CCOT, very easy. All right, what is the main topic of this essay? Hopefully you got that it is the progressive movement. And then what is the subtopic is political change. So if you got that, great. If not, something to work on. All right, next, in theory, you've already done this next step. So our next step is we're going to go ahead and do step number 3. So remember, step number 3 is completing a T-chart. If you're new, T-charts are a brainstorming technique. On the left side of the T-chart is your main argument. In this case, it's going to be change. On the right-hand side is going to be continuities, or what stays the same in the time period. So I want you to go ahead, and in theory, you've already done this. So you should already look at your T-chart. You should look at your LEQ. If you don't have your LEQ, you can just go and turn it in and have access to it. Go ahead, fill this out with as much as you can. You want a minimum of 5 on the left for change and 3 on the right for continuity. Remember, some things can be on both sides. So something like, for example, women's suffrage. Obviously, the 19th Amendment was a major change granting women the right to vote. However, a continuity would be that throughout the time period, women were attempting to gain more political rights. So again, you can have terms on both sides. Just make sure you have it. And again, you can have as many as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and give you about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and go ahead and fill out your T-chart with as much as you can. Ready, go. Okay, at this point, you should have completed step number 3. So hopefully your entire first page is done. Now we get to go to the actual documents. Now I'll explain later why we pre-wrote and why we did T-charts and stuff like that in a little bit. Next class period. Hopefully I'm there. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. So, step number 4. Now we're going to analyze each of the documents. And wherever the star is the box that I'm going to talk about. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice that I have listed each of the documents. All the DBQs have 7 documents attached to it. And we want to make sure that we analyze each one before we start. So let's start with the first starred box. In this box, you're going to read the document and you're going to answer basically what is the document telling you. So you want to be really basic with this. This isn't some elaborate LEQ prompt. This is just a one sentence. What is the document saying if you were to summarize it in a sentence? Now you'll notice that there's a sentence stem. It says this can be seen in blank, which states that blank. I will explain later why we use that sentence stem, but for right now, please use that sentence stem to be able to describe what the document is talking about. So, for example, this can be seen in Jane Addams' description of issues at the Hull House, which states that, and then what? Is Jane Addams saying we should get rid of all immigrants? Is Jane Addams saying that the Hull House is a failure? What is she saying in this? All you have to do is a short sentence, period, and describe it. The next section is specifically going to be about the terms. So you want to write down as many terms as possible with each of these different documents. However many you can to be able to answer it. We want to really focus on terms in these essays. All right, so one thing really quickly I want to point out, though, about some of these documents, and especially document 1. Now, you'll notice it's Jane Addams. Oh my gosh, freaking out. We love Jane Addams, Hull House. Here's the thing. Just because it's Jane Addams does not mean that that is necessarily the only term associated with that document. And when you read it, you're going to realize, oh, maybe this is something else, not just the Hull House. So make sure you read the entire document. Don't just assume before you read it. Now, the far right box is specific to the question, is it a political change? Now, you're going to have one of 3 options in each document. Number 1, you could say, how does it show political change? So this shows political change because what? Or maybe number 2, does your document say political change isn't happening? Or it's failing? Or change is not occurring but should occur? Or number 3, does it say that there's things that are not changing, but you know later on that it does change? So you're going to describe that for me in this box. How is it a political change? How is it possibly not a political change? Or how could it possibly be both? Sorry, guys, I have a pneumonia. So I might have coughed a bunch in this video. Sorry. Anyways, so that's what you're going to do in this box. Now, again, I can guarantee at least 2 of these are not going to be political changes or advocating for change, but change has not yet occurred. So just be aware that not all of them could be change. You might get a little bit confused on it, and I'll show you how to use that later on. Okay? Now, once you've done all 3 of those boxes, you're going to do that for all 7 documents through step number 4. Now, today, B-Day mostly got through 4 or 5 documents. Most of them were only to 4 at the end. Since it's not a Monday, and since we're not going over the test until next class period, I could go ahead and assume that you guys should get through the vast majority of this by the end of class. Don't rush it, though. Really focus on collaborating with the people in your group and getting a consensus of what you need to do. Some of these documents are really hard. So, final instructions of what you need to do today. So your goal is to get through all of step 4, which is the chart that I was just barely talking about. Only through document 7. If you get to step 5 and it says, what are some terms that were not? Okay, you've gone too far. So step number 4, only through doc 7. You can work with other people, but again, don't forget that whatever you don't complete becomes homework. That doesn't mean rush, but that means don't be one of those kids that talks about some random thing. We had that happen today with a group. They spent about probably 45 minutes talking about another topic, and they only got through 1 document, and now they have that as homework. So make sure you're working hard. Anything not done in class should be done as homework. We'll do the rest next class period. So again, don't go past step 4, please. Thank you. Okay, some special information about specific documents. So again, number 1, some of these documents might seem obvious without reading, but they are actually something completely unexpected about the document. So don't assume something based on the author until you read it, especially doc number 1 is the one that's been tripping people up on that. Document number 3, which is also starred in the left-hand column, is not something we talked about in class, nor does anybody else. Now, if you took AP World last year, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that DBQs will usually have at least one document that nobody knows what it means. Last year, if you took AP World, you know on the DBQ that there was a doc that was a box. And you want to know how many people got that box correctly on the AP exam? About less than 1% to 2% is what I was hearing floating around actually knew what that box meant. On the AP exam for US, that's doc number 3. And they're always going to have one that tries to trip you up. And I will show you how to use it in an essay to be able to get the points for it. It's actually rather easy. But they're always going to try to trip you up with one of the documents. So when you read doc 3, you're going to say, Miss Ray, you never taught us that. Yeah, nobody did. In fact, all the AP teachers I've talked to, the only ones that even knew what they were talking about in terms of the actual law and term was actually Chicago teachers where that document and law is from. So don't stress out if you don't know it. You just have to fill out the left-hand column and the far right-hand column. You do not have to fill out the middle column for doc 3 on terms because you will not know terms. Okay? Now, document number 6 is your hardest document that you do know. When you first read it, you're going to have no idea what it means. However, look over your notes. We did talk about it, and then once I reveal next class period what the answer is, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I should have figured that out. So hopefully that explains how to be able to do all of this. Again, please be proactive. Please work hard so you don't have to do any homework. So again, your goal is to complete step 4 as much as possible. My guess is with this class, the fact that it's not a Monday and the fact that we're not going over the test, I'm going to assume that you are probably going to get to about doc 5 or 6 would be my guess. If you are through doc 7 and you are still having 20 minutes left, you've probably raced through it way too much. Please collaborate so you know these documents before next class period. And hopefully I will see everybody on Thursday. That is my goal, hopefully. All right, have a good day.